Fakkie is diep in gedagte terwyl hy hankend aanstap skool toe. Hy stap alleen omdat hy nog niemand by die nuwe skool ken. Dat beteken verstaan. Hy moet nou weer van voor af maats maak.
The class of 76 was a class that was resolute. It was a class that was organized. It was a class that was committed to bringing change into this country. It was 1976 where the regime started losing power. There was rolling mass action until we had to go for elections. My name is Enos Ngutshane. I was born and bred here in deep Soweto, in Soweto. I come from a family of 11 children, football team. And most of my siblings grew up in Mpumalanga, Bushbuck Ridge, but I was the only one who stayed here in Soweto with my parents. Started schooling at Busisiwe Primary School, went to Zola Higher Primary School, and of course later joined Naledi High. We used to call it the Great School on the Golden West during those days. We were on the other side of the cohort of students that were doing geography, history, accountancy. We were part of the debating society. This area used to be a very violent area, but there were youth clubs that emerged during that time that sort of pulled us out, a crime-ridden type of an environment, and groomed us to be who we are today.
Tshepo Haraboroko, ke hlahela mo Soweto, ke hulela ko Mapetla, then ka kena sekolo. From primary school I was go Merafi Primary School, and then Isaacson Higher Primary School. Then I went to Mulapo Secondary School, which is now called Mafori Mphahlele Secondary School. And then from there, I came to Naledi High. Ke kopana le Enos ko Tina Christian Club. He was a nice guy, a bit rough, coming from Zola. That was called the roughest and toughest area in Soweto. He never ceases to thank how Teen Outreach molded him to be who he is today.
Kena Pedro Nero Raburoko, Kiroyaka Tumuruti. Yeah, I've been a pastor for the last, for the last 53 years. I started the youth club in 73, Ebiswam Teen Outreach. It was first a teen challenge, simply because there was a book that I was reading, and a Ebuaka Teen Challenge, and in America, the guy and David Wilkerson. But as time goes on, the crowd now focus here high was on young people who were involved in drugs. But by then, Soweto, we never had a problem with drugs. It was just a matter, our young people need to be motivated. They need to gain skills. They need to know, what they've got to prepare for their future in the prevailing circumstances. It's when, this black consciousness, phenomena start actually rising.
We say an injury to one is an injury to all.
There were a lot of developments around that time, more especially at the universities where there was, a lot of political development and a lot of, unrest, which sort of led to the formation of SASO, at the universities. That trickled down and came to secondary schools and high schools. And with the formation of the South African student movement, SASM, we also had to establish a branch here at Naledi High, branch of SASM. Of course, assisted by one of the students who came from Morris Isaac's sin by the name of David Kutumela. He's the one who really politicized us as members of the student Christian movement then, okay, to sort of make us conscious about our surroundings, the political system as a whole, the system of education, which was Bantu education then, and how it affected us, that we realized who we were, okay, as black students, right, growing up in an environment like Soweto as well.
Our policy is one which is called by an Afrikaans word apartheid. And I'm afraid that has been misunderstood so often. It could just as easily and perhaps much better be described as a policy of good neighborliness, accepting that there are differences between people.
Apartheid was an evil system, right? Designed by the same fascist, called Hendrik Verwoerd. And that is why apartheid was even declared a crime against humanity by the United Nations. Therefore, as students who grew up during that time, we had to stand up and fight the regime, right? Fight the system as a whole. So we're not just focusing on Bantu education, but we're focusing on the system of apartheid that discriminated against us, right? That looked at us as subjects who were there to be used by the regime to provide labor.
You make your water soapy, and then we can steep the cottons. Because cotton is stronger when wet than when dry.
And we had to fight back.
We became involved in things that were bigger than us. We were deprived becoming young people at the right time. But we still enjoyed our youth.
I was elected the secretary of the branch of SASM here at Naledi High. That gave me an opportunity and gave me an exposure, right, to deal with other NGOs, to deal with other organizations, to deal with other students who were coming from different areas and different schools as well. And we used to meet in an area which is called Welgespreid in Roodepoort. I used to call it a university because that's where we used to gather as students, mobilize each other, and plan how to confront the regime. That led to the formation of the Soweto Student Representative Council, okay, where each school had to send 2 representatives, into the council itself. So we had 2 representatives coming from this school. It was Sibongile Mthembu, who's now Sibongile Mkabela. Then there was Khotso Siathulo, who became the 2nd president of the Soweto Student Representative Council after Tsietsi Mashini, came from this school.
When I was doing my Form 1, then we were told we were going to do half our subjects in Afrikaans and half in English. it was the difficult subjects that we ended up doing in Afrikaans.
Afrikaans is not our mother tongue. It's not even our second language, right? And therefore, we found ourselves in a tight corner where we saw the apartheid regime itself sort of closing the doors of learning and culture in front of our eyes. That's why schools like Pefeni Junior were out in the streets as early as February 1976. Schools like Thomas Mufulo resisting the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction.
A lot of things were questioned, and to a point where he got motivated to write this letter then that he wrote, which was very relevant to what we were going through.
It affected me as well, because I could see really. I therefore had to stop going to school. Then I decided, okay, I'm going to pen a letter to the then Minister of Bantu Education, MC Botha. My expectation were that she might respond in a letter, or he might invite me for coffee so that he tells me why he's imposing Afrikaans.
To him, it was just an innocent letter, questioning, certain things. But then we learned the hard way that you don't mess up with the status quo.
The police came to my place in Zola. I insisted that they must produce a warrant of arrest if they wanted to take me to a police station. They failed to do that. So I told them I'm not going without a warrant of arrest. The politicization and conscientization that we're getting also taught us to say you cannot just be arrested without a warrant of arrest. I knew that they must produce a warrant of arrest.
Now we were all scared, because we thought they will look for people also who were associating, with him. We didn't know how to respond, to be honest, until what happened, on the 8th of June 1976.
I saw the principal coming to our classroom. He said, hey, can I see Enos? And the teacher allowed me to go out. Then principal says, hey, police that are looking for you. What have you done? I said, no, I've done nothing. I think these are the same guys who came home and wanted to take me to a police station to interrogate me. I was ready to raise the same issue of a warrant of arrest, but the white policeman, Stephen Becker, was not prepared to listen to me. He said, just go and get your books and we're going. So I left the principal's office instead of going to my classroom. I came to one of the classrooms here where Siatrulo, Dibelo Mtapanyane, and the others were. Tseke Murati. I just called them out and say, hey, can we caucus? So as we're caucusing, I told them, the system is in the office. They're ready to arrest me. They said, go back to class. Sit for about 10 minutes while we're organizing the students. So I went back to class, sat there, and exactly 10 minutes, the siren went on. And the whole school came out in one voice in saying, you are not going anywhere. Principal's office was surrounded, lots of singing outside. White policemen grabbed the phone. Unfortunately, the students took time to cut it so he could call and called for reinforcement. But as he was pacing inside the office, the black policeman came in and said, "Hey, the car has been overturned." Policeman went out. After about 3 minutes, he comes back, "Hey, the car is now on fire." That's when the white man was really confused in the office. Then I said, it's my time to leave this guy. Let me go and join the crowd outside. So we're singing. The police vehicle was on fire. In no time, the reinforcement arrived. There was tear gas all over the place. We've never heard of tear gas. Later, there was a huge Land Rover that was carrying what was called a sneeze machine. We ran that way because this was the only entrance here, and they blocked it. Over the fence, into the location, and we disappeared from here. They came at night and pulled that wreckage of a car and put it outside and reported in the newspaper that the car was involved in an accident because they were very, very embarrassed, to be humiliated by students.
But after that, life became very, very difficult, for him and for all those who were associating with him, because we had to be equally on the run.
We were scared, so to say. But we were now in the milieu where we are confronting the regime. There was no time to go back, right? There was no time to go back. After June the 8th, Frank Chikane comes to me because he was now the teacher here after he was expelled from Teflop University. And he says, "Hey, now you are not going to be sleeping at home." So why? These guys are going to come and arrest you. Now you've got to be underground. Underground? What do you mean by that? So he started moving me around, right? From this family to that family, that family, that family, to make it a point that the regime does not know where I am. Evening of the 14th of June, we were supposed to have met around Jabulani. No cell phones then, no phones, nothing. Just a word of mouth. I waited for him up till, 2:30 in the morning, when we were supposed to have met at 10 in the evening. I couldn't understand where's Frank. It emerges that his car got a problem, got stuck somewhere. Then I said, "You know what, let me just go and have a nap at home for 2 hours." Can you see how innocent we were? Very, very innocent. And that was a serious blunder. I think I was home for about an hour or so trying to nap. The next thing I had my mother in Sesotho, "Leskela Mushapa. Yo, what's happening now in this house?" When I woke up, Stephenus Becker was standing in front of my bed. "Stand up." I was arrested on the 14th of June. That's why I didn't see June 16, because it was my first day to appear in court. Seeing myself, in a police van being driven to Protea police station, it made me feel lost as well, angry, isolated, and very uncomfortable being in the hands of the regime and not knowing what is going to happen in future. I was kept at the Midlands police station before appearing in court. I was seen as one of so-called terrorists I was interrogated, tortured, made to drown in a half barrel of water until I was totally unconscious. When I woke up, the whole cell was just full of water, bleeding through the mouth and through the nose. The regime was the regime. We've seen people being killed, being thrown out of the 10th floor at John Foster Square. Therefore, you prepare yourself psychologically. That's the end of me. I might not come back. But the most unfortunate part for me, when they brought my elder brother into the cell, I think they threatened him and said to him, tell your brother that he knows where C.H. Machinini. Mind you, I never met C.H. Machinini at that time. Because I was not part and parcel of the Student Representative Council. Our school was represented by Sihongile Kabela and Khotsa Siahlula. That was very strange for him to come and confirm that I know C.H. Machinini, I brought him at home, you know. I was nearly killed because after that the Boers were very, very heavy on me. You know, they use all sorts of, techniques to try and extract information from me, which I didn't have. Later, we're sent to the Fort prison. Now, when I appeared for the second time, I was no longer alone. We were about 10, including myself. I asked these other 9 guys, who are you? From which school are you coming from? I discovered that most of them were just arrested from Pefeni and Dube stations, were workers, were coming back from work. Were arrested just walking from the station. I saw that as a nice justification for myself to be released from prison. I just claimed that, I'm a worker myself, and we're all arrested from Pefeni, and others were arrested from Dube and were discharged. It's a question now that is asked by Helen Suzman in the apartheid parliament to say, where is the youth who started all this trouble on the 8th of June? Then Minister of Police Jimmy Kruger stood up and said, the youth is spirited away, and he sat down. Only discovered later that I was released as a worker who was also employed from one of the factories in town. You can't go back home. You want to be arrested again. June 8 is a prelude. It is part of the process that led to June 16. It was Bo Daliwonga, it was Bo Pefeni Jr., it was Bo Orlando Jr., it was Bele, and it was Thomas Mofulu. Those were in the forefront of opposing the imposition of Afrikaans as a system of education. We came very late as high schools, right? And therefore don't get confused by people who tell you that June 16 started at Naledi High, or it started at Maurice Isaacson, or it was started by C.H. Machinini. No, that's not the truth. It started long before C.H. Machinini. It started long before Enos Ngutshane, right? We just joined later in an organized fashion to take the process forward where we challenged the regime. As you know, the decision to march was taken on the 13th of June by the Soweto Student Representative Council. It made me feel very angry not to be part of June 16 and the march itself, because there was a lot of anticipation of what is going to be transpiring on that particular day.
Agitators who do not cease their activities immediately will be prevented from continuing with it by being placed in detention in terms of the Internal Security Act. strong police units will be on hand to deal with any person who may try to cause a disturbance on Tuesday or on any other day. These units will have instructions to protect law-abiding citizens and property at all costs, and to do so with all the means at their disposal.
The South African Defence Force has come in full force. Ikuri na Soweto, si tshweremollo, se tse ntšha kaofela. And everything was just happening.
To realize that the regime can react so forcefully, right? By killing young students, okay? Everybody was shocked, not only in South Africa, internationally as well, to say, what type of a government is this?
Young people were not actually intimidated by all the forces of the regime, and that on its own actually is a matter of saying something that has never happened is happening.
The actual number killed by police is at least 4 times the official figure. Almost 1,500 people were treated for wounds and tear gas poisoning. Damage in Soweto has been estimated at $35 million.
Frank fortunately organized a friend of his up north in Sishu, where I went to sort of cool down. I think I was there for about 2 to 3 months or so, just taking a break, okay? Until my cover was exposed, by a younger brother to the fellow I was staying with in Sishu Zone 3. Who told his father to say, hey, my elder brother is harboring somebody from Soweto. So one evening, his father, who was also linked to the Bantustan government of Lipu at that time, came there, shouted and said all sorts of things. But I didn't see him because I was in the bedroom. I could just hear. Then I decided, no, I'm going back to Soweto. It was time for big decisions. Whether you want to go back to Soweto, whether you want to cross the country. At that time, I decided, I think it's still too early. The struggle still continues in Soweto. Most of the people thought I was already from Tanzania. They were asking for AK-47s all over the place. I said, no, I didn't cross the country. I'm still around, and continued. Became part of the Soweto Student Representative Council, now representing Naledi High, right? Because Siakshulo had crossed the border with Sisi Mashinini. We continued, we mobilized students throughout the country. I went up north with a student who was part of the Soweto 11 that were arrested by the name of Chief Wilson Twala, right? We were very, very active, okay? Addressed schools in different parts of the country, mobilizing them to really challenge the regime.
Africans were not allowed to drink. 1960, they made sure in every station there is a bottle store. The revenue in Yamuhela, Yadin Cruiser rented a Soweto. In a ilika class, who revenue in by Yeza, Kaurigi Sabuana. They made their bags. So that is one of the things that angered, young people and say, this is delaying our liberation. And therefore, we are going to make it a point where every bottle store goes down. And it happened exactly that way.
The struggle did not just end up with Soweto Uprising. We had to take it to all parts of the country. so that everybody gets involved until I left in 1977 at the end of August. We were organized by Zweli Sizana. Zweli Sizana was part of SAZIM, very organized young cadre of the ANC. Used to walk the whole of Soweto, visiting school and mobilizing schools. Okay? When my life became unbearable, to say now you can never be anywhere, you're hunted and must be killed, right? First incident happens along the street up in Mde. We were there, we organized a prayer meeting, about 20 of us in the house. The regime arrives early in the morning, wakes everybody up, pulls the blanket off my head, is Enos. Now I said, this is now the end. It's either Robben Island or the dead again. Cut a long story short, out of those 12 guys who were armed with R5s, ready to pounce on me, I managed to escape and leave that house in front of them. When I left, all of them followed me, forgot about the 19 guys who were inside their house because they came for one person. Okay, so that's additional to all the other, pressures that the regime was trying to put on me. Okay, that's when everybody decided. Frank Chikane said, "Hey, Baba, it's time to go." Zweli Sizana said, "It's time to go." Then he organized about 4 of us, myself, his younger brother, plus 2 children of Lawrence Nzanga. Lawrence Nzanga was one of the prominent unionists, right? Here in South Africa, was killed in 1977 in prison, died in prison. So I had to take his children and Zweli's brother across the border. Yeah, so we crossed into Swaziland. We're in Swaziland for about 7 days. Then they drove us to the border of Swaziland and Mozambique. Comrade Zuma, Jacob Zuma, is the one who picked us from the border. Drove us to Maputo. Yeah, we're in Maputo for about a month or so. Then we proceeded to Tanzania. In different countries after that. I was in exile for about 14 years. I had time to go and study a little bit in the UK. Had time to build the school in Tanzania. I worked at Somafu for quite some time. Later, before we came back into South Africa, I was based in Swazi, in Lusaka. One came back November 1990, being recruited by then Treasurer General of the ANC to come and work and establish treasury in Gauteng. I got another invite from the University of Witwatersrand at a business school through Patrick Fitzgerald to say, hey, there's an opportunity to establish a school to teach public administration, but not the way it's taught in South Africa. We want to establish what is called public management or policy, studies at the West Business School. So that opportunity came handy for me. Said, I've been with the ANC for quite some time. Let me try something else in the academia. Then moved and established a foundation, which we started at the university, Public and Development Management Foundation, to train new public servants who were coming into the government, right from local government, provincial structures, and national structures. It worked extremely well. Then later joined Gauteng government as a head of department, responsible for local government and housing. Built a lot of houses. You look at Protea Clan. I started it from scratch, from rezoning and up to building those houses. Had projects in Tembisa, had projects in Katlehong, had projects in Sibuki. And we were the first one to start what was called a project-linked subsidy, where we took that 28,000, that government subsidy, and we said, you know what, in order to build a better house, let's take this 28,000, go to the banks and say, bank, come in and match this money. So that we come with 80 or 95,000 and build a better house.
To be honest, much as we had this Bantu education that was not good for us, I think we were serious about education. We took things very, very serious. But today's youth, they don't seem to appreciate what we have achieved, you know. Much as it's the perfect thing that we were looking for. But the way they take their learning, they take it very casual. And I think things have been made very easy, you know, for them. These days, if I want to test to go school, you must give them scope. So this is how, what you must focus on for the test. Well, now we were just told you are writing a test on everything that you have done. And you had to study, you know, kakeres and nochal. You know, there's no electricity then. And make sure you seriously burn the midnight oil.
First, looking at the education that is given to our children with a 30% pass rate, right? The system of education that produces job seekers. System of education that does not teach our children to be independent, you know, in terms of thinking, okay? A system of education that produces students who go to universities who cannot read for understanding, okay? Read comprehension so that you are able to respond and write. A system that takes 1.2 students every year, starting from grade 1, right? But that cohort of students, when they end up with grade 12 or something like that, matric, I think you guys call it this way, 800,000 of those are lost throughout the system. It's only 400,000 that would go into the universities. So do you call that a system of education that is effective? No, it is not. Because it does not teach our children robotics, coding, artificial intelligence, right? So that they can fit into the economy, okay, that we're building in this country and internationally. So we have a system of education that we never fought for.
Struggle is to get the right type of education as so fair. It's still an ongoing thing. But I doubt the quality of education still needs to be improved.
We still need to work hard to make it a point that we have a system of education that produces entrepreneurs, okay, who will be independent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting with 37% of unemployment in this country, majority being the youth, okay? Other countries have got better systems of education, Zimbabwe across the board, right? Nigeria is one of them. Tanzania, another one.
The challenges that we had, the youth of 76, are different from the challenges that they are faced with today. They've got different challenges, but they should be able to take things or take responsibility in the same manner that we did to confront the type of challenges that they are faced with more seriousness, with the radicalism that the youth of 76 showed, especially that abasana that much of opposition that we faced.
But what are we doing, Lolo? That is freedom. Are we playing Kayona, or do we want to really make it count in as far as our tomorrow is concerned?
One got married while I was still at the university in Liverpool. So my wife came back, we settled here, got 2 young girls, had one that I also got in Mozambique that I brought along. So I've got 3 beautiful girls. Unfortunately, I lost my wife in 2021 in September.
My name is Ngutshane. I was born Ngutshane, but now I am Kangisile Makutulela. I am one of the daughters of Enos Ngutshane.
My name is Ntabise Ngutshane. I'm the last born of Enos Ngutshane.
We grew up knowing that our parents are struggle stalwarts. We knew about the letter, we knew the role that our parents played in the struggle, that they met in exile. I think it really shaped us as well in terms of how we have to present ourselves and how we have to be. We were raised with very strong values to value education and hard work. We always, every June 16, commemorate the 8th of June when our dad was arrested. Either we go to Naledi High or we go to Morris Isaacson. So that's what we grew up in, that spirit.
Growing up, they were just focused on making sure that we understand the importance of the opportunities that we have versus what they had, but also making sure they remain like really cool parents, really supporting us in everything we do.
I don't know how he manages to be cool and very strict at the same time, but he does. I remember growing up, he'd always be on my case. You never close the cupboards. There's need to be in order. But he does give us, the freedom, even in our schoolwork and everything. When I decided to study drama, he really supported me. He's a very present dad. Our relationship is very tight.
He's not parenting on the basis of how he grew up, but parenting on just how he wants to be a parent. But again, loves order, loves hard work. And if you give him that, then he gives you that support.
We appreciate you so much. Being raised by you is a real honor. We appreciate the life that you've given us and that you've afforded us. Thank you for being an amazing dad, a present dad, a supportive dad, a smart dad. Thanks for always being there for us, especially when we lost our mom in 2021. He really just was everything for us, a mom and a dad, and he made sure that we don't feel that gap.
I'm really just so grateful to be a child of someone who keeps us very humble, always teaching us to be good to people. You can't just stand there and feel like, oh, I'm Tabi saying I'm alone in the world. So thank you for teaching us those lessons.
Thank you, guys.
Gang, gang.
Learn from us as a class of 76. Sit with us, chat with us, so that we are able to impart experience, knowledge, and skills as well. That's what our youth need. They need skills to be able to build themselves into leaders who are like ourselves. We want to see you organizing and challenging all these complicated things that are bringing our lives into a chaotic system that we're confronted with currently. We must not be quiet. We must stand up, as we did.
Amandla!